It's Happy Hour again from Uptown New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. Happy Hour is part of the family of shows on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com. When you walk into a bar in New Orleans and you pull up a bar stool, you never know who's going to be sitting on either side of you. What you do know is no matter what they look like, what they're wearing, whether they just got out of a limousine or just got out of jail, they're going to be happy to talk to you because that's New Orleans, and this is Happy Hour, a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common, and nothing could be truer than that today, I don't think, ladies and gentlemen. Where was I, Andrew? I'm lost already. Nothing. Other than we're all New Orleanians. Well, we're not even all New Orleanians today. No. Arthur's here from New Zealand, and Lucy's from Peoria, Illinois. And Alex, where are you from originally?
From Manhattan originally.
From Manhattan originally. But Andrew's the only New Orleanian in the whole bunch.
Metairie.
Andrew Duhon's from Metairie. That doesn't even count.
No,
okay.
It's Greater New Orleans.
I'll do this whole thing again. It's a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common other than we're not New Orleanians in a bar.
But we're in New Orleans.
We are in New Orleans.
At a bar
in
New Orleans.
And I have fathered two New Orleanians.
Well, that counts as something.
I think.
Okay, that's a good. How
it's
old
as
are
close
the two of them?
5 and 9. It's as close as I can get to being an actual New Orleanian.
That's as best you can do. And Arthur has been here for how long?
Half an hour, but I am drinking bacon out of a cocktail glass. So I think I'm a New Orleanian.
All right. Half an hour. You really just flew in and got off the plane and came straight here.
Drove down from Graceland,
You
Memphis,
drove?
Tennessee.
Oh, I thought you flew in from New York. Oh, you drove from...
No.
Oh, you just drove into town.
We
and
hightailed it.
Oh, my God,
straight
how
to the
awesome. Well,
spa.
thank you so much. You came with Sarah, your girlfriend, who... Yes. Where are you from, Sarah?
From New York.
She's from New York, okay.
She's a Manhattanite.
Do you guys met each other in New York? Or
That's right,
something?
yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're not wasting any time at all.
No.
Very
Came
good.
Straight south to see Faulkner's house in Graceland.
Wow, okay. And Lucy, you're a musician and a social worker.
I am.
We'll get on to all that in a minute.
Yep.
And Andrew Duhon is here, who's a Happy Hour troubadour. Who has already done guitar repairs today on his guitar. And anyway, let me tell you where we are. What is up with my microphone? Has anyone got any idea?
I don't know.
Get the pliers out, Andrew.
Yeah, let's get those
I
pliers.
think that's what it was. It was two. Okay.
Got it.
We're at Wayfare on Ferret Street, which is uptown in New Orleans, near Napoleon Avenue. It's a bar and a restaurant that serves handcrafted food and spirits, where Chef Kevin White puts fine dining into a sandwich, which is absolutely true. This guy, who's the chef, he's right over there. He's in the kitchen, surprisingly enough. Was a chef with Mario Batali in New York. You're familiar with him, right?
Oh, yes, indeed.
So then he moved to New Orleans and opened this restaurant and put all this fine dining Italian cooking experience into making sandwiches. Which sounds ridiculous, except until you taste them, which Lucy can attest to.
They're amazing. Yeah, there was cheese, lots of it.
Oh, really?
Which one did you get?
I don't know, but I feel like there was
Grilled cheese,
pesto
maybe?
on it and cheese. You know what I'm talking
yes,
about?
it's just the caprese. How do you say that word? Caprese.
You say caprese.
I say caprese. but I don't-
Caprese.
Yeah.
I'm Sicilian. What are you?
Oh.
Cajun French.
So I win.
Yeah,
Okay, caprese.
good.
I love that people in the United States, this is something out there, have you figured, you know, those people say they're Sicilian when they're actually like 5 generations ago. Somebody
yeah.
came from Sicily.
That's just what
probably.
I'm told. It's
Right.
You just don't argue with those people, do you, when they say
Well, no,
they're
everybody
Sicilian?
says
Okay.
it. Everybody says I'm Sicilian or I'm Polish or I'm Greek or whatever, but actually what
yes.
they're saying is that somewhere along the line, when I first came here, I thought they really were. I thought, well, all these people are Sicilian or
speak
Greek.
such
It's
good English.
amazing.
No, we're all a bunch of mutts.
That
Yeah.
blood's oil based, though. You know, it doesn't come off anything.
But everybody's very proud of coming from somewhere.
yeah, oh yeah.
Somewhere else for some reason, rather than just being American.
Well, it's embarrassing, isn't it?
What is?
You don't want to just go around the world and tell people you're an American. How many Americans that travel farther afield than just going to Venice in July wear Canadian T-shirts? Quite a few.
Is that true?
Sure,
Well,
absolutely.
You've traveled all over the world.
I have.
Do you do that?
No, of course not.
You're proud to be an American.
No. I'm proud to be a citizen of the world. As it
Okay.
happens, I love being an American because it gives me access to all kinds of things that most other places don't.
What?
But
Like
irrespective
what?
of that,
Like what?
well,
Obamacare.
although I'm probably not the person who that was directed towards, right? So what does America
Didn't
give
mean
me that
anything
other
by it.
places don't? It gives me an inherent understanding from birth that anything is possible. Now, it doesn't mean that anything actually is possible.
That's
Right?
That's a delusion. You know.
It's a delusion, but it's a nice delusion to have.
Right.
You think that's part of that delusion is part of the American psyche? That you have to be born to believe that you
I
can
think that
actually
for a long time
become
it
the
was a
president?
part of the American psyche, and now there's rage on the streets because people don't think it's true anymore.
I would like to use the word optimism bias instead of delusion, and it is something that I very much like about America and Americans, that when I first came here, I was walking around with a friend's guitar and a person came up to me and asked me to join a band. And I thought, that only in America
Yep.
would that happen.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. There's when it gets right down to it, once you get out of your car, people are communal and friendly. And then they like to meet you, and then in turn, they're interested in what you do. Right? So and that's a universal thing. That's not an American thing. That's just being out in the world. People like each other by nature.
I think you'd be surprised. I've been to some places where curiosity is not the forefront of people's minds. Morocco, that was a tough one.
Yeah, but even in the Middle East, I'm not talking about somebody who's sticking a gun in your nose.
No.
But generally, if you go as a guest into someone's home all over the world, they are happy to have you.
Well, by the time you're in someone's...
Once you've got in.
Well, but the home is a
using the home as a
threshold.
Correct.
But this is, and I guess it's risky talking about foreign places, but Morocco is a great example for just the architecture. Like, you're walking along the streets and the houses are all, once you get in, there's a beautiful fountain and garden and all that kind of stuff. But outside, it's very high brown walls and very uninviting. So yeah, once you get invited in, it's good. But here, I'm walking down New Orleans and everyone's got a balcony overlooking the street where they can throw beads on you. Or
to bring this full
wave to
circle,
Well,
one of the
you've still got
reasons I
plenty of
love being an
time.
American is because mostly people invite you into their homes.
boom.
Well, I think they do that in New Zealand.
You're in
don't they? I
Morocco,
thought
and
you said-
it would apply to New Zealanders.
Yeah,
and
people are
Aussies
very
and
friendly in
everybody
New Zealand. You can go stay with somebody. You can get to meet someone in the bar, and they'll ask you to come stay with them.
But no, very happy to share the culture. I was at a gun range in Mississippi yesterday, and
That's not a sentence you hear too often from
well,
Right.
not outside of definitely not in New Zealand, But they
What-
were very happy to share their culture.
What
with
were you
me.
doing at a gun range in Mississippi?
We drove. We were on our way to Graceland, and we passed.
Which direction were you going?
We were going from Oxford, Mississippi, which is where Faulkner has his house, to Graceland, so two extremes of awesome American culture. And we happened to pass what looked like a brand new gun range, and we thought, this is not usual, why don't we stop off? And for a small fee, they hired us a pistol. A friend took us there, put earmuffs on us, and taught us how to fire at a target 3 feet away.
So this is the advantage of driving and not flying across the country, is you can stop at the gun range
Yes.
and learn how to shoot. Have you ever shot a handgun before?
I had never shot a handgun before. I've done it for the first time now, and it's quite an extraordinary feeling.
Yeah.
What's the actual feeling?
Well, the thing is that the target, this was only 3 feet away, so it was relatively point blank, but you push the trigger and immediately
Pull.
there is a hole in the other side. You have powerfully
You don't push the trigger.
destroyed something.
Yeah.
I've heard that apparently human evolution can be measured in how far away from your enemy you had to be to overpower them.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we go all the way from the
yeah.
kind of, the spear, all the way, I suppose it's drone now,
Trebuchet.
but
Right.
I can see that the
Yeah.
gun made a big bloody difference.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So what was the feeling like? The minute you pulled the trigger, you blew someone's
Was it-
head off.
I did that. You just saw a hole was already there, and you realised that you had done that, but it wasn't really through will of mine. It was a little bit accidental. I suppose I pulled the trigger. It's very hard to describe.
Was it? Some people feel an absolute thrill doing that, and that's why they want to go do it again and kill somebody. Did you find that? Because that could be a dangerous.
I definitely didn't feel that I wanted
sign.
to kill people. I did find it extraordinary that anybody who gets shot ever survives. That's another miracle. I suppose modern medicine. Memphis is very good at that.
Well, probably from 3 feet away, you might not have much of a chance if you're a decent shot and you
Yeah,
blew
apparently a bit further. I'm a golfer in my days when I'm not shooting stuff, and I know that the further away from you get a couple of degrees off in that original shot, and suddenly you're
Right, by the time it's...
picking your ball out of a swamp over to the left.
How far does a bullet from a handgun go that can still kill somebody?
Depends on the handgun. The other
you
thing
ha-
about guns is that
you have a gun,
they're much
Alex?
louder than people think. I have quite a few guns.
You have
actually.
a few.
I do.
What's your
but
favorite one?
I have guns that don't really sort of fit into this qualification, right? I mean, they're not usable guns. They're antique guns.
Oh,
and
okay. So you're a collector of guns.
I'm an inheritor.
Oh, whose were they?
Grandparents and great-grandparents and that sort
Cool.
of thing, and so they sit in the closet.
Were any of them military? They're.
No, they're mostly fowling pieces.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
yes.
That sort of thing. Shotguns, mostly.
Have you?
Fouling as in I'm
nice.
fouling upon you.
Right. And you haven't shot any of them?
No, I've shot most of them. There's I just got a pair of dueling pistols.
Okay, now you're talking.
Right.
And I have not yet I fired one of them, and what I discovered was that the size of the round that I put in it wasn't exactly the right size, so I'm yet to get the cartridge out.
Oh, it's stuck. It's
Oh,
jammed
no,
in
see,
there.
that's okay.
Ah,
So
that's
was there
how
a chance that
people-
that could have blown your hand off?
Yes.
I used my left hand.
Just
given that you're
You
right-handed.
use the one you could give away rather
The
than
one that I could give away.
measure it
That's
up a little
correct.
bit
That's
better.
correct. That's exactly right.
Because you're actually a painter. You're an artist.
I am. I'm a painter and an illustrator. It's
So you
useful to have
wouldn't,
my right
you
hand.
wouldn't want it, but you have to relearn that all with you.
I've seen some good
I don't
mouth
think
art.
you couldn't relearn it.
So now that the bullet's stuck in the chamber, what happens now?
Well,
How-
eventually I'll straighten
you
out.
get it out?
Oh, eventually I'll straighten out like a wire coat hanger and jam it down the barrel.
Oh, that's the way to go. Coat hang. It says here, Alex, in my research from our crack research team, that you're a painter, illustrator, best-selling author.
That's true.
What did you
But not
write?
for what you think. I wrote a trilogy of kids' books called Tales from the Watering Hole.
Uh-huh.
I'm very big with 5-year-olds.
Really? So that's how you get to be a bestseller?
Yeah, look, you get to be a bestseller by selling your stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, is there 5-year-olds aren't shopping?
No, but their parents do.
Parents. So how
That's
do you?
genius.
You have to convince their parents that this is. What is there about the book that makes it a bestseller? What do parents find attractive about it?
Quality and humor, right? I mean, that's
Quality.
Quality and humor.
Okay.
You got to
And
throw
humor.
that out there. If you're going to write these things and you're going to make the paintings and make the illustrations and take the time to actually put them into the world, you have to be presumptuous enough to assume that what you're doing is of quality, and then therefore make sure that you put your best foot forward to ensure that what you put out there is of quality, because ultimately your career is very short if it's
In
not.
terms of quality, are you intentionally putting in things that are fun for the parents to
Right.
read? As
Oh,
well as the
clearly,
kids?
clearly.
Okay,
They're all written
yeah.
for adults.
Right.
Right?
That's
I mean,
the
it's,
secret. That's what we learnt when we had the guys from Imagination Movers told us that. So
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
who's coming to their shows, and they're super bestsellers.
I
and
use
you
the
got
word
same.
in the first of the books called The Jungle Grapevine. It's a game of telephone, and in it I use the word humor in 4 different definitions for humor. So now that clearly is not intended for a kid, right? You're in a good humor. You are you enjoy somebody's humor. It's good for your humors, etc. Right? So that's not for.
I didn't even know
not
there
for a
was more
5-year-old.
than one. What's
Yeah.
the fourth one, just out of interest?
You've put me on the spot now. so
I only
let me
thought
think
there
about
was
it.
good humor
So-
ice cream.
No,
Is that
and,
the
no,
ice
no,
cream?
and the third one is a
To
sense
humor
of humor.
someone.
The third is a
Sense of
sense
humor.
of humor.
Okay.
Right,
Which is
so-
not actually a sense at all, really, is it?
No, it's not. But you have a sense of humor. Actually, I disagree with that. I think it is a sense.
Maybe it
You
is.
have
Don't
a
be
sense
so
of humor.
tangible, Grant.
Maybe.
No,
Maybe it is.
you pick up on something funny without
Yeah.
just by being around it. There are certain people that you're around, and they are funny people,
Right.
and they don't have to say something. They don't have to act in a certain way. They just have a twinkle.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's
That is
a-
interesting. It's a quality.
It's a quality.
Yeah.
More
And
than a
weed
sense.
makes you
More
more
than a sense.
sensitive to it, I believe.
You can be.
Marijuana you become more sensitive to the humor, I believe, you know.
Did you say with marijuana?
With marijuana.
Yes.
Yes. It's good, Andrew, because we've been sitting here for now for 13 minutes without talking about drugs.
Yeah.
So thanks
too
for bringing
long,
that.
clearly.
We
Well,
normally,
it's
we normally
not
get
a
the
drug
pot.
anymore.
We
That's
normally
not a
get the
drug.
pot pretty well. What's it called then? It's a sense.
It's a sense.
That's what they use that word,
Sensimelia.
right?
An aid.
Sensimelia. That's a kind of a pot, isn't it?
I think it's a.
It's a plant,
Sensi.
actually.
It's a plant. Doesn't Bob Marley talk about sensi?
He probably does.
It's not good if I'm the expert on pot here at the table. I don't know. We just move right along.
But is he saying sensei or sensei?
I don't know. Sensei is
Oh.
that's Japanese. I think.
Well, I mean, but Bob Marley was a worldly fella.
I don't know, but
true.
sensis are those little things that burn wax and smell
I think
good.
he was into
right?
karate.
Yeah.
Or
Was he? Bob Marley
he was
was.
definitely a good football player. Maybe this is just because I've been to Memphis, and Elvis, of course, was a big karate person. But I have a.
And when you
I
say
can
big,
see-
you mean fat.
they never
Elvis-
show any of the pictures where he's very big. That's a very
There-
flattering
you do-
image they give of
Oh, at
him in
Graceland.
Graceland.
You do see photos of Elvis with that.
They brush over the child bride issue and all that kind of stuff as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's like the Nixon Museum. Have you been to that yet?
Not yet. Where's that?
That's in San Clemente, California. That's,
I would love
Are you
to
driving?
go there.
Are you driving across the country?
I will now.
Yes.
There's a
That's
big
worth
prison in
going
San
to.
Clemente as well, isn't there?
I think there is a prison there, actually. I went to the Nixon Museum the day it opened, actually. I was there for the opening day, and I can tell you now, I was completely high off my face. And
Yeah.
I walked in there, and I thought, okay, I watched the opening ceremonies, and somebody made a speech, and somebody else made a speech. I have no idea who that was now. Probably like President Bush or something. And then you get to go into the museum, and I walked into the museum, and I've been in there for about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I can't take any more of this. And I turn around to leave. You can't leave.
Oh,
You
right.
can't walk
That's the catch.
backwards.
Oh.
You have to go
You gotta
all the way through the whole
Like
thing.
IKEA.
And I tell you what, by the like IKEA, is it the same thing?
Absolutely.
You can't
yeah.
leave IKEA.
You've got to go through all the various departments, but
Oh,
Nixon.
but by the end of that trip through the Nixon Museum, even though I was high, I never realized what a great guy he was.
Huh.
It's the same thing as
Until you
I
went
was
there.
convinced by then. Fuck, I never knew this guy was. He opened the path to China.
The
He
Great
started-
China
He
Initiatives.
started the EPA. He invented this. I think he invented the internet or something else.
Elvis valued
Incredible.
charity more than he valued money or fame.
There you go. Same
He
thing.
couldn't stop giving to people.
There you go. See, it's great these
How
museums.
did you get invited to
I
the
wasn't.
opening of the Nixon
I wasn't
Museum?
invited. It was public. Anybody could go there.
Oh.
This was way before security. I don't think any of us at this table would get in. Alex, you might, because you could probably bullshit your way through. But I don't think the rest of us would get in.
I don't know that I could bullshit my way into the Nixon
Yes,
Museum.
I think you
You gotta want it
Yes.
bad enough. You
You
know,
just
you
gotta
gotta
want
want
it.
it.
So I think
You
you'd be
just gotta
very
want it.
Your
convincing.
fowling pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, that definitely gets you in
That
there.
would that
Those
would
dueling
that would
pistols,
get me the opposite
right in the front
direction.
door.
That would get me the opposite
So,
direction.
Arthur, you're also a writer, right?
Yes.
You're a playwright and a screenwriter.
Not as illustrious as our man to my right here, but
I don't know about that. I don't know. You. It says here that you're touring the United States with your one-man nuclear PowerPoint comedy show called "On the Conditions and Possibilities of Hillary Clinton Taking Me as Her Young Lover,"
that's true.
and it says also you're a Fulbright scholar.
Well,
Is that not true? Or is it?
it is true. I have the option to take up a Fulbright at the moment, but now I'm dilly-dallying about whether I go to these institutions. It's like, screw that grad school path. I'm going to strike out on my own and just let my work speak for itself. And I'm tending
Where does the
towards that.
Fulbright put you in school? Rhodes Scholar sends you to Oxford. Where does
Yeah,
the Fulbright send you?
Fulbright puts you anywhere that you can possibly get in. So you apply to schools, and then it is a $25,000 US award, which sounds very nice. But when you
Yeah,
think
that'll buy your books.
I was going to
yeah,
say that.
I was going to say
That
most
might be
grad schools
lunch.
are about 40 grand to the start. So I was like, do I really want to go and get into a hell of a lot of debt to do more
No,
writing?
you certainly do not.
I want to go and try this. Yeah, on the conditions
So-
and possibilities is.
So it's based on a
Good
book.
deal. It's based on a book called On the Conditions and Possibilities of Helen Clark Taking Me to a Young Lover. Now,
And
Helen
Helen Clark
Clark
was
was
the-
New Zealand's Prime Minister.
Right.
And I made a very successful in New Zealand nuclear PowerPoint presentation out of that with Jeff Pinfield, my co-adapter and director. And that did very well in New Zealand, but then it was all leading up to the 2008 general election. Once that was over, our show was functionally obsolete. And
Right.
this was the most money I'd ever made on anything, and we really liked doing the show and we liked the humour, and it's taken 8 years later. Hillary Clinton has proved a better candidate to make this proposition to. So it's about Richard Meros BA is this overeducated, underachieving New Zealand academic who doesn't know why he hasn't got anything that the world has promised to him, and he has figured out that Hillary Clinton not only wants but needs a young lover in order to inaugurate a golden age of American culture and society, and that of all the candidates in the world, the only possible person for this position is him. And so all he has to do is go out on the road and prove it. Because he can't get to her, obviously, so I go out and do this show in order to create the groundswell of, publicity.
Wait. Are you telling me that you're hoping to become Hillary Clinton's lover through this?
Can you imagine how good it would be for both of us if that was to occur? Can you imagine what it would be like if Hillary Clinton came out prior to the election and said, I've got a 30-year-old lover. Now what do you think of me? Like, this doesn't actually make it into the show.
She'd get elected, probably.
This is the whole argument. Like,
Right.
This doesn't actually make it into the show's the statistic. But when we were thinking, do we adapt this from Helen Clark to Hillary Clinton? Of American presidents who have admitted to, or it's widely known that they've had affairs while in office, have left office with approval ratings 10 percentage points higher than
Okay.
those who have not or have kept it quiet. So we're talking, think Kennedy, Clinton, FDR. Go back to Jefferson, who obviously was a founding father of 6 illegitimate children. Like, these are the great presidents, and the thing that connects them is they've all taken young lovers. This is our pitch to Hillary.
Sex sells.
Yeah.
Even politics. Okay, this is a pretty damn good idea, because I think there's a huge number of people in America who would think that she's getting Bill back for the whole Monica Lewinsky and God knows who else bullshit
Right.
that
There's
she's
a-
put up with.
Look, if
That's
a little bit
one
of revenge
angle.
comes as a nice byproduct of this wise decision on her part, then fantastic.
Is she, and since you've been invariably digging into her psyche in order
Yeah.
to put this together, right? Is she a sexual creature? Enough so to have an affair?
We think that undoubtedly that is the case, yes. If anything, it's an indictment on, society these days that a powerful female figure has to suppress her sexual desire.
Is she certainly heterosexual?
100%, and I think again that's a power thing. It comes from this idea that a woman in power must act like us, think like us, be like us, fuck like us, because men are inherently born to lead. No, of course she's a heterosexual goer.
But that's a very interesting question, because when Helen Clark was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, one of the knocks against her was that she was really gay as well.
That is the first lump of mud that you
Well, but
throw
that's
at
the
any
rub,
woman in
right?
power.
Like that was
They're a lesbian.
No, but that's the rub, right? Which is that if you're going to truly usher in a new age, then it shouldn't matter. She should be able to come out and say, I have a lover, it's a 30-year-old woman. Go fuck yourself.
That's absolutely
Yeah,
fine,
but
but this is about
it was
empirical
true.
evidence. We have researched her hard, and we've decided that
But
she
not.
must be heterosexual.
Well,
sorry
there's
to
no
the
reason
girls
to
out
believe
there.
she isn't, given
And-
that she's been married for X number of years.
Exactly, and women have had their chance with 44 previous presidents. So it's time for the boys to have their ability to be a young
So
lover.
do you find her sexually attractive?
In all honesty, she is a beautiful woman
Oh, dear.
who
No,
has a
come
lot
on.
of money and a lot of power.
Well, she does have a lot of money, I suppose. Does she?
What else is
Do we
attraction?
know that? I mean, personally, do you find her attractive to look at? If you didn't know she had a lot of money and a lot of power, if you're just
You got
looking
to
at
understand
it,
that I started off with Helen Clark, who was not the most wonderful looking. Hillary is a very beautiful woman, and there's no doubt about it. She is in great form these days. She'll wear a scrunchie every third day or so. She is.
Now, I have to say, you sound very American with the idea that attraction is derived from looks, money, and power. Where's love, Ben?
Attraction. Well,
He only
doesn't
wants
love
to-
spring from those three things?
I don't think
Isn't
it
that the
necessarily.
nursery
No.
bed?
I
Hang
can't
on a
think
second,
of
wait,
a
hang
worse
on.
nightmare than marrying a powerful, rich,
Who's-
hungry woman.
who's
It's
talking
like
about
spending
marrying?
the
He's
rest
just
of your
talking
life
about
is over.
fucking her. He's not talking about
Yeah.
marrying her, right?
I'm not trying to split up her marriage. I want to be her young lover. The whole
Just-
point is, for maintaining success is defined in my show as the establishing and maintaining for a reasonable period of time an intimate physical relationship with Hillary Clinton. Definitely doesn't have to be forever. We're not trying to tie her down here.
Just till she gets elected.
And
That's
maybe,
the-
I've got to get my benefit from all of this. so
Lincoln bedroom.
once you, just a whisper in the
What's
ear.
in it? What's in it for you?
Well, what do we, the millennials, and Richard Merrill's BA is definitely a, representative of the millennial generation, in which fame is a much more powerful currency than anything else. It's fame.
That's it. That's what's in it for you.
It must
You'd be the guy who
you would
fucked
have the-
Hillary Clinton.
You would have the ear of power.
But you wouldn't be able to
You
do-
always talk about the woman
Do you
behind the
realize
man,
what's
right?
going to happen to you? Though?
What?
You won't be able to do anything for the rest of your life. You'll be like the guy who fucked Hillary Clinton. Doesn't matter what you do.
Or can he do
You'll be like
everything?
Shakespeare.
Do you think that I would be as disgraced as
sounds
Monica Lewinsky?
Shakespearean,
I reckon I'd be held up.
actually.
I reckon
Sounds
I'd be held up.
It does sound. Do you? Do you really believe it? What do you think, Lucy?
I feel like I need to say something important given I'm the one woman at the
I was
table
just
right
going
now.
to say the same thing. You're the
I was
only
going to
woman.
say it too.
I'm
but-
still hung up on the whole notion of the Kinsey scale here. We've pigeonholed Hillary into being straight now.
being
I'm-
heterosexual, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people get over the news and they move on. So no offense, but I think it'd be fun, for maybe a week for America, and then you might just be that guy.
Do you reckon that they would be like, oh, okay, that's over. Now we're going to listen to her policies?
How about this? You're a 65-year-old former lover of Hillary Clinton, known as such. The ultimate walker.
Yeah.
That's what's on your gravestone. He was a walker.
He
A
walked away.
walker.
Could you define
What does that
walker?
mean?
That's a
I was
beautiful
thinking
word.
about
A walker is
Zimmer
a
frame.
walker is generally a young to middle-aged homosexual man who literally walks divorcees, mostly much older, often well-heeled, to events.
That's called
So,
a
like,
walker.
yeah,
I never
okay.
knew that was a term.
I didn't know that was a thing
Yeah.
either.
No.
Correct. Not
How
just
do
a
you
Tennessee
get,
horse.
How do you get that gig?
You need
You
to.
need to be. It's like a gigolo, kind of.
It's a gigolo. Correct.
Right.
You get that You get that gig by
it's kinda
looking
cool.
for what our man's looking for here: fame, money, and power.
Anyway, so Arthur, as far as away from reality for a minute, back to
Yeah.
the show, which this is not
Yeah.
a real campaign.
Let's take a step
It's
back
not a
from
real
reality.
campaign to fuck Hillary Clinton, right? This is a piece of theatre.
This is
we're
fun
talking
times,
about.
yeah.
It would be good if
Right.
it turned out that
So-
way, though.
so- wouldn't it? It's kind of like Wag the Dog in a sense.
But it's a delightful premise, and if
But-
stuff grows around it, it's
yeah, hey,
absolutely lovely.
if life follows art, whose fault is that?
We got into New York Mag.
That's
We were
what I
put
was
on the
just going to
approval
bring that up
matrix.
to say this here. Yeah, what is the deal? It says here that you were mentioned alongside Lena Dunham, Jon Stewart, and serial killer Robert Durst
That's right.
as
and
lowbrow and brilliant.
exactly. And this was after we'd done. So this is New York Mag. Now I don't know much about these kind of things, but I did this show for 4 nights at La Mama in front of, it was a 100-seat place, and let's be honest, we had about 200 people would have come along
Total.
in total, and then suddenly it's
in the New York
boom in
Magazine.
there, and then we get phone calls, and then people would like to have a meeting, and they would love to see this show if we've got a chance. And it's very strange.
Well, what happened as a result of being mentioned in New York Magazine? Has it elevated the whole thing to a new...
Well, this is kind of the reason that I'm here, because I was going to go home in disgrace, as I always assumed that I would, very quickly to New Zealand. But La Mama's putting on another little season of it, so we've got another show.
Extended.
The 20th of April, so that all these producers and stuff and all these other theatres that had said, no, they all want to see it now, and they want to see, because it's ridiculous. The whole thing's run off my laptop, and it costs me $5 a show because I use a Polaroid picture. But it's a very entertaining hour, and it can kind of go anywhere, and it kind of shakes up the theatre, the general theatre thing at the moment.
Wow. So it's a sort of a revolutionary new piece of theatre.
I like to think so, in a very,
It's just you on stage the whole time with a PowerPoint presentation?
Me too. You got to understand, that's why we call it a nuclear PowerPoint presentation. I'm taking PowerPoint beyond the capabilities that even its designers thought it able to do. Some of the transitions in there, some of the flying ins and sound effects that I managed to wrangle out of this thing are really punctuate
you figured
the show.
all this out. Has Helen Clark seen either the original one or this one?
This is always the question. No, Helen Clark never saw it, and obviously Hillary has never seen it, but actually that's kind of okay, because the whole point is that he can't reach this person.
Well, I can get Helen Clark. She's my friend on Facebook.
Oh,
and she lives in New York.
Perfect.
And she lives in New York.
Well, I wonder, would she be, now that I've moved on?
Yeah.
Like,
She
it's kind
could
of an
see it
old
now because
girlfriend.
it's
Because it's someone else.
Flavor of the week.
Let's try and get in touch with her and see if she wants to go see it.
If you would like to
She's in London.
message her
I think
for me.
I would love to. She's in London, I think, right
I'd be
now.
very
But
happy
whenever
with
you,
that.
by the time you're back in New York, she works at the United Nations now.
Absolutely,
She's a
very high
special
up.
envoy at the UN. Yeah.
And the one thing, if I could say anything to her, I guess if
You
she
can.
thought of me, which I don't
I'm
think
sure she listens to
she
the
can.
show.
So I have great respect for her, and I think what she was a bit worried about when it was doing big business in Wellington just before the election is that there was some snotty guy making disparaging remarks about her. And it's like, no, this is nothing but full of the greatest respect, and
You couldn't have more respect for someone than wanting to have sex with them, right?
I don't think so.
Really, exactly.
Could you?
That's what I'm saying. Hey, Alex, we'll get back. And Lucy, I haven't even let you get a word in yet. But first of all,
okay.
and when we come back from this, we've got 2 things to do. One, we're going to make Andrew play a song. And then secondly, I have to read these sponsor messages. Which one should we do first? Do the messages first and then the song? Okay, let's do that. Okay. And then we're coming back to talk about Lucy Cordts, which is a very weird spelling.
It is.
Cordts.
Far too many consonants.
What is the deal with that? Where's that from?
Germany.
Germany.
It's very Midwestern.
I thought
too
it
many
was
consonants.
What happened to
And
Sicilian?
Illinois. Yeah,
That's someone else.
You just pick
Sicilian.
one and go with it when you're a mutt.
You said you were
Sicily,
Sicilian.
Germany,
So if
England.
why did you pick Sicilian first? Why didn't you
Because
say
we
I'm
were talking
German?
about something Italian.
Oh, talking
Yeah.
about caprese salad.
Yeah,
or
so I went with that
you
so that I
say
could be an expert on the
sandwich. Okay,
Right.
so lucky we weren't talking about bratwurst, or we would have to say I'm
topic.
German.
I'm from Baden-Baden. Yeah.
Are you really?
No.
So good they named
No.
it twice.
My great-grandfather was, I think.
He was.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Where's that? Is that the place where the
It's in Germany.
German pilot from German Wings came from?
I don't know about that.
If you're from Baden-Baden, are you a Baden-Badener or a Baden-Badenese or what?
I like "ite" on the end. I'm actually
A
not sure of the
Baden-Badenite.
answer. I like that.
Oh,
It sounds
yeah.
best, I think. Yeah, I don't know though.
None of those are
Do you
German,
get
though.
rid of one of the Badens? Just go for a Badenite?
I hope not.
Why is
No.
it called Baden-Baden? So
I'm not
good
sure.
They named it
Yeah,
twice.
if I knew what it meant in Germany, maybe it would make in German. Maybe it would make more
I
sense.
think it means Duran Duran in English. What else?
Well,
what
then it
else
makes
has 2 words?
It makes perfect sense.
What else is the name of something that has the same word twice?
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Is that
That's
the name
an Australian
of something?
place.
Is it really? Whoop whoop is an Australian place.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's outback somewhere.
Is it really? Is that right, Arthur? Do you happen to know anything about Australia?
I believe it's pronounced wop wops, but you're right. It is a territory.
But that's a generic term out in the wops, isn't it?
Yeah, but
or is it really a place?
Why do you think? Why does anything become a stereotype?
I don't know.
Because
That's
it
the real
exists, right?
place. I bet a lot of people are listening to this. Well, probably only one person's listening, but that person's probably thinking, who does this guy remind me of? And it's got to be, what was that show? People ask you about that all the time.
A show?
The New Zealanders in
Oh, the Conchords.
Flight of the Conchords. Doesn't he sound like Flight of the Conchords?
You're New Zealand too, though, so to us it just sounds like.
gross.
Oh, it all sounds the same?
Yeah.
Oh, we have completely
No,
different.
but I see he's got a little bit of American in his accent, and it's
Right.
Yeah,
at this
when I go
point,
back
yeah,
to New
it's
Zealand,
like,
people
yeah.
ask me where I'm from. Now I just say New Orleans now, and that just ends the conversation.
Say, I'm a Baden-Badenite.
Now I'm going to say Baden-Baden.
Duran,
That's a
Duran.
great idea.
Yep.
Duran.
might put you in jail if you do too much of that. I'm a Baden-Badenite. Oh, that sounds disgusting.
Does it?
What
It's
do
a
you do
place.
to other people?
That's what you want to
Or
do to Hillary
creatures?
Clinton, isn't it?
We're going to do some Baden-Badeniting.
Let me say thank
All
you
night
very much
long.
to these people who have made this show possible today. Our show is brought to us today by Petite Pet Care. If you're going out of town or you have a crazy schedule, the folks at Petite Pet Care will take care of your pet in his or her own home. For loving care when you're not there, go to petitepetcare.com. Also thanks to Basic Swim and Gym, a full range of fashion swimsuits, workout and yoga clothes with style. The all-new Basic Swim and Gym is on Magazine Street, right near Jefferson Avenue, which you cannot drive down anymore. Also thanks to Hangover Destroyer, the only all-natural product, medically proven to prevent a hangover. Go to the Hangover Destroyer website, it's called hdestroyer.com. Write happy hour in the coupon code and you can get 30% off Hangover Destroyer and seize the dawn. And thank you also to unlistedknoller.com. The revolutionary new way to buy a house in New Orleans. If you know what you're looking for, you can find your perfect match before it comes on the market. It's thematch.com of real estate, your chance to find a house before anybody else finds it. It's called unlistedknoller.com. Thank you very much to all those folks, and thank you to Andrew Duhon for playing the guitar in the background.
Bravo.
Another beautiful song. Thank you. Now, don't put it down. Don't put it down. Andrew, we've come to that part of the show where we have a nice song,
Sure.
touch of real culture. What are you thinking of playing?
You know, I'm just always trying to play something new, Grant, something I'm working on that's never finished, you know, something like that.
Okay. What's this one about?
This is just a lighthearted, bluesy, jammy song about our hometown that none of us are from. Kind of sounds like what I just did, doesn't it? Wait, how does it go now? You know when you play two things that are really similar, and you can't remember the difference between the two? Here it comes. Make a lowland plan for some high ground. The river started to rise. Oh, gal, I'm gonna make a ghost town turn around. You know we're gonna come right back to a side. Rivers will fall and the rivers will rise. So much lost in the tide, but still the spirit survives. Yeah, still the spirit survives. You take a new photograph like an old photograph. City frozen in time until my old standby look like a new tourist trap. But I still know my corners I can hide. Rivers will fall and the rivers will rise. So much lost in the tide, but still the spirit survives. Well, yeah, still the spirit survives. I used to rent bowling shoes and listen to a man play the blues. I never heard such a soul. He was blind as could be, he couldn't see a thing, but he surely did find his way on. He's dead and gone, but I still sing along to all of his old 45s. Yeah, the spirit survives, baby. Yeah, still the spirit survives. Oh, well, that river will fall and the river will rise. So much gets lost in the tide, but still the spirit survives, baby. Yeah, still the spirit survives, baby. Yeah, still the spirit survives.
Right.
Hey, thanks, Thanks, y'all.
Fantastic.
Isn't he awesome?
Yeah,
The
it was
fabulous
shucks.
Andrew Duhon. Come on, the guy is great, isn't he?
Wow.
Thanks,
Clearly.
dude.
It almost sounds like I didn't just break your guitar. I'm still really
You
sorry about
didn't.
that.
Yeah, so Lucy, what happened? You went to sit down
I
here and you
sat
knocked Andrew's guitar.
totally sober, sat down, and there went
It's
the
a t-
guitar. And it's really embarrassing because as a musician, you have an appreciation for instruments, and
Yeah.
so
All
Yeah, but
people.
you don't go knocking people's stuff around.
But I put it there,
I
you know, and it's
know.
like the guitar that I don't appreciate that much, you know, and then you just,
Oh.
it's like the
Perched on
tiny
the
little
bar stool.
plastic
Still,
piece.
it doesn't matter. It could have been a toy guitar. It's
been.
mortifying.
Lucy, does that mean that you too are a musician?
I am. Yeah.
What do you play?
I play the banjo and the mandolin right now in the Kelcy Mae band.
Nice.
So, but you know, kind of grew up with the standard fare. You know, you grew up learning the piano and learned to kind of read music that way, and then you got good and tired of playing Bach. You know, because you were 8, and that was never fun when you were 8.
You could play Bach when you were 8.
That's all they made you play. I
What
had
time?
it.
When did you start?
I think I started when I was in about the first grade. So what's that? About 7 years old.
6 or 7.
Yes.
So by the time you'd been playing for 1 or 2 years, you could already read music and play Bach.
Well, I don't know. Time kind of fast forwards. It just felt like the whole thing was one big Bach song. You
When
know,
you
because
say I don't
yeah.
know, the truth is you do know.
I mean, I think probably.
You were playing Bach. Oh, you mean you weren't playing it by ear, I assume? Right?
No. Yeah, probably as
8.
a youngin, you get the like 4-bar version of whatever the Bach tune is, and you can like play with your right hand. You know, you can like plunk out a note or two. You know, it was kind of one of those things. You know, the next door neighbor was the piano teacher, so it was.
This is in Peoria,
Yeah,
Illinois,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I've
yeah.
onny ever heard of. Have you heard of Peoria, Arthur?
I never have.
No.
People
Where
talk
is it?
about Peoria.
Illinois. Oh, so
Illinois. Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours from Chicago,
Okay.
so that's usually a reference point for people.
Have you
who
been
aren't
there,
familiar.
Alex?
I have never been to Peoria, but I have heard of it.
Have you played there?
No.
People talk about Peoria like it's sort of like the litmus test.
Yeah, if it plays in
If it
Peoria,
plays in
that's where
Peoria,
the
yeah.
that's where the phrase came from,
Right.
apparently.
And it's from theater, like band in Boston, right? I mean, it's that sort of thing. If you could play in Peoria, then the Midwest would accept it, and therefore the American ethos
Yeah.
would take it on, right?
Yeah, and I sort of got the sense that kind of expanded outside of theater, in that it was just kind of a grain-fed, kind of if it flies with these folks, it'll probably stick just about anywhere type of deal. But I'm not really certain.
Was there in if you were banned in Boston, you played in Providence, right? And so the first Howard Johnsons, for example, Hojos, was there
no,
to
Hojo.
facilitate the theater goers coming down from Boston and up from New York
Oh.
to go and see these shows that were banned in Boston, who turned it into a national, probably international chain.
Hmm.
Is there some version of that that's consistent with Peoria, or it just
We have
was
a
the middle
Hojo.
of the spot?
Yeah, we do have a Hojo. No, I really don't know. Yeah, theater's sort of off my grid in that way. I know about Peoria Players. We do have that. That's an awesome theater group in Peoria. But no, outside of that,
How many people live in Peoria? Is it big or small?
yeah. So it's about 115,000. So it's
Oh.
not a town, but it's a very small city. You know, that's kind
Yeah.
of how I think of it. It's pretty small.
So it's got everything. It's got movies, theater.
Yeah, the whole deal.
Bach.
I mean,
Electricity.
biggest city in New
I
Zealand.
mean, it's outside of there until you get to Chicago. It's one of the kind of main cities in Illinois.
Okay.
So
I was going to say I wanted to ask a question, but I actually had an observation about Bach that I wanted to run past you. Several times I've heard people who make contemporary music reference being influenced by Bach. I think we're talking
Yeah.
about the dudes from they did Hysteria. It's not Led Zeppelin, but it's and there was a great New Zealand band.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah, let's just say Spinal Tap. Def Leppard, it was. And also a great New Zealand band where the dude, he stole bass lines from Bach. Is there anything about Bach that influenced you or lent itself to contemporary music that you could notice? at
yeah.
that age?
So what's that?
I'm not going to interrupt you, please.
Oh,
Proceed.
okay, yeah. No, you know what? The only thing that I've kind of heard that rings true to that is just the classical influence that it seems in modern music. And I don't know if it's a combination between a lot of folks getting their training in classical music and sort of bringing that forward, because that is extremely common, or if there is really something to the Bach piece. Yeah,
So now I will jump in, because I think
Yeah.
that the reason is because Bach was the first musician to incorporate the idea of structure in his music that's consistent with fractals and jazz, right? So Bach, Gödel, and Escher is a wonderful book about the intrinsic way and nature that things are structured. And Bach, in his compositions, tapped into that in a way where he was repeating again and again and again common themes, but each time having a variation on it. So that you're ultimately looking at the whole inside of an individual clip of music, which was then reflective of the whole again, and each time different.
So are we talking about the birth of like verse, bridge, chorus kind of stuff, or is it?
No, we're talking about things like the divine proportion and the golden ratio and the intrinsic way in nature that things move.
Yeah.
And why is the seashell the same as the entire shape of the galaxy, right? It's that stuff.
That'll make your head hurt.
What-
No,
what's
it'll do the
reason?
opposite. It will make your head empty out and feel
When
free.
you listen to the music, maybe. Yeah.
Well,
it's like,
what is Alex? What is the reason for that? What is
What's
the reason that
for
this?
it? God,
A seashell, is that true, first of all?
It
Is
is.
the seashell the same shape as
think
the
about
whole
that.
galaxy,
So
or are you
think about
just
the
saying
Nautilus.
that?
No, I'm not just saying it. Think about
That's
the shape
true.
of the Nautilus. Go from a seashell.
The Nautilus, the workout.
The smallest living thing
is
that
it?
we can see under a high-powered microscope is a single cellular paramecium,
I
which
thought it was
is
going
wrapped
to be
into a
celery,
nautilus.
you were going to say for a minute.
Hang on, bear
It's
with
a
me.
paramecium, okay.
So you have the smallest living thing that we can perceive, which is the shape of a nautilus. Then it goes to a seashell, and then it goes to the divine proportion, which is what happens when you apply certain kinds of math to a rectangle.
I
and
have
then
to
it
write
goes
that.
to
Do you want it?
the
do you
winds of a hurricane and flushing a toilet, and regardless of what hemisphere you're in, it all
Yeah.
spirals in the Nautilus. So do the way that a rose grows up according to its petals, and so to the arms of the galaxy. So what does that suggest? It suggests, whether you're a God guy or not, that there is an intrinsic uniformity to the universe, and therefore is a spiritually enlightening idea, irrespective of your belief in God or divinity or natural order to things, which has nothing to do with the above, right? It's
Well,
a means of tapping into each other and to a universality of life.
Doesn't it just suggest that all those things are under some sort of similar forces, right? And whether or not that force is God or not is the God part.
Whether or not it's God who's put it in place is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand as humans what the big question is, right? Why are we here? We don't know.
Yeah.
So in the context of that thought process, this is a mathematician's or a musician's or a painter's clue to the universality of the things that surround us, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, my job as a painter is how do I perceive myself in relationship to my surroundings?
That was a good slip, though.
Yeah, no, I know. Little multiple
Myself,
personalities.
yes.
So how do I perceive myself in relationship to my surroundings, and then make it universal enough so that those that see what I make can also perceive themselves in relationship to their surroundings?
Yeah.
Right? So therefore creating some kind of an understanding that we are all part of a larger system. Now, whether that's God or Allah or Buddha or Bach
Gravity.
or
None of the above.
Einstein, it's all the same conversation.
Right.
So that's why
But-
Bach is being used by Duran Duran.
But about the Bach and about the
In
Bach and about
Baden-Baden.
when we use it in art, you know, it's not quite the same as the Nautilus, right? Because the Nautilus wasn't it was naturally contriving these patterns, right? But then if we
So it's
put
a
them
little
in as a
difficult.
representation, right?
No. It's a little difficult to talk about visual mediums on the radio or in a podcast. But
Sure.
irrespective of that,
Have another drink.
if you take a proportionate rectangle,
Usually works.
if you take a proportionate rectangle and you take the long end of it and you divide it by 1.618, the divine proportion,
Yeah.
and you then flip it on its side, 1.618 division,
Right.
etc., on and on and on and on.
Right.
What you end up with is a series of proportionate rectangles that spiral into a nautilus.
Right.
And that diminishing point is where your eye is most naturally drawn in the composition of a painting.
But I guess my question is, when Bach uses such a thing like these arcs and these mathematical equations, he's not being naturally affected by the forces that the seashell is. He's doing it because he recognizes that this is a beautiful part of the universe, so let me actively put it into this thing because I like math.
Because it
But
feels
it's
right,
not-
right?
yeah,
Or-
but does it feel like? That's a good
think
question.
I think it's intrinsic. I think that if you go to nature and look, that you find that dolphins skip across the surface of the water in the same way that antelope leap across the veldt. That if you think about the way that your eye navigates through a Pollack painting, it moves in the same fashion that fish swim around a reef, right? I mean, you're starting to find these things that are through lines. And so then as a result, it's not just that Bach thinks that that's entertaining and easy to the ear. It's that he's using the constructs of the universe and the uniformality of it
Yeah.
to bring the outside into what he's putting together. So he's created a structure, which is an existing structure from nature, which then allows him to play.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, ultimately it's that, right? I mean, what's the great preciousness to Monet the ability to watch the light change, right? So it's taking the...
Well, that's where it becomes pretty interesting to me, because when you think, like you mentioned Escher, if you look at an Escher drawing, he's got to be using a ruler here or something to make these proportions work mathematically within the drawing, right? But if Bach is just, dare I compare him to the flushing toilet, if Bach is just writing this music and is somehow tapped into this force wherein his music ends up fitting this mathematical equation, that's a beautiful thing.
But
I
music is maths. Is it? I have to go to you for this one, because you guys are both musicians, but
I hate math.
There's eighths and sixteenths.
But math is taught wrong. You hate quantitative math,
Yeah,
not
okay.
qualitative math.
Probably
right? You don't
true.
like doing your taxes, but
Hate
you
it.
like thinking about pulling the curtain back on the universe's great mysteries.
Sure.
Right? So that's math too. You don't hate that.
Yeah, I guess different math.
But
Yeah.
it's still math.
Still involving math.
I have a math question. What is this divine proportion 1.618?
So the
does
divine
that mean?
proportion, what does that mean? It's a proportion where if you divide a Fibonacci rectangle, which is a proportionate rectangle in on itself, that you end up with the nautilus as described. Now it also, by the way, is
Okay,
the
now
proportion...
there's too many words in there that we
So
don't know
it
the meaning.
also, by the way, is the proportionate number, which shows you, and it's a little hard once again on a podcast, but the distance between the end of your thumb and your first knuckle into the length of your thumb. The distance between the end of your finger to your wrist into the end of your finger to your elbow. The distance from your shoulder to your elbow into the entire length of your arm. If you think about Michelangelo's drawing of the human figure with its 8 arms, etc., showing you that it's 8 heads up and down, 8 heads left to right, it's the proportion of the way we are constructed.
I thought that was Leonardo da Vinci drew that.
You're thinking
Oh,
about
you know what?
that
You're
man
exactly right. He
spread
did.
out.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
His
It's Da
arms
Vinci.
wide
It's not
and his
Michelangelo.
legs
Excuse
wide.
me. You're correct.
So 1.618 is that's the ratio.
It's called the
of all-
divine proportion.
That's the ratio of all these things. That from the tip of my thumb to the first knuckle.
Yeah.
And then from that knuckle to the base of my thumb.
If you divide the first distance into the second distance, that's 1.6
on everybody.
Now, where the
body.
myth comes
Everybody.
up is the whole thing about
proportionate.
foot size and penis size, because that has nothing to do with the divine proportion.
Do
As
we know
much as
that
people
for-
might say, we know that for a fact.
But this sort
Some
comes
of us
back-
fellas
this,
do.
This sort of comes back to the glimmering Plato's cave of money, power, and fame, which is ultimately your willy will limp, but the divine proportion does not. Right?
Yeah.
Universal truths that have to do with the unending nature of life, as opposed to the details of our petty existences.
Okay, given that this is true, that this 1.618 is this divine proportion that can be applied to all sorts of things, like my thumb and
Whatever.
and the whole cosmos.
Yeah,
But
correct.
not your foot and your penis.
And your foot and your pecker.
And there is absolutely no explanation for that whatsoever.
The explanation
it's
for
an
that,
is there a design?
The
or is that a
explanation for that-
completely random.
it's not random. The explanation for that is that there is a universality in nature to the way that things are.
Is there
And
really,
this-
or is it
yes,
just our observation
there
of
is.
it?
Well, ultimately, remember we go back to the idea that as a painter I can only perceive myself in relationship to my surroundings. So it's all going through the filter of my own perception. I'm
Not just your own perception, but the perception of all of
No,
us.
nothing
as a
exists
human
unless we
race.
perceive it. Beauty doesn't
So-
exist unless the human
Exactly.
perceives it. So it
So
is through
all
us.
of these things are
But you
wandering
said-
around in a
but
very
I wrote
surrealist
this
manner.
down when you said this. You said that all this is we're talking about the constructs of the universe.
I am. I'm talking about the constructs of the universe.
The construct comes from us. It comes from the observation. If I was an alien and I had a completely different view of everything,
So you think we
different
work
math,
for the cows?
I'm suggesting,
Right, of a
I'm
different
suggesting
math
that
system.
if you were an alien,
Kelvin.
that you too would be affected by these intrinsic natural means, and that if you were an alien and you came to us, I would then suggest further that you know more about it than we do, because our perceptions can't get us past the moon. I mean, we could see, but we haven't really gotten out really beyond what's just in front of our noses. And so the only way to perceive what is the bigger picture is by taking the clues which we perceive. And the one universality is that divine proportion and how it plays out in the way that things in nature intrinsically move. Now, I strongly recommend for the last 11 minutes of this podcast that we immediately go back to Hillary Clinton and pecker sauce.
Okay, but has anyone
This is a very important point.
Has anyone attempted to use this divine proportion and all this sort of stuff to come up with some sort of a science, an energy source,
Ah,
for example?
energy source I can't tell you about, but there's a very good book which was written in the last 15 or 20 years by a guy named Wolfram called Wolfram's New Science. Okay, it's a new kind of.
Shall I write that down?
Write it down. It's it's a
Okay.
tome. You can sit on it at Thanksgiving if you're not tall enough for the table. It's called A New Kind of Science, and there is Wolfram, and there is a conversation that's been taking place over the course of the last 50 years in artistic and in scientific circles that has to do with what are we actually looking for, right? I mean, ultimately, we don't even know the right question.
Right.
So this is a means of looking for what are the clues to lead us towards the ability to ask the right question.
Right.
I have a question, because this has all come from Lucy.
Heavy.
And I'm fascinated by you, Lucy. How we came to this point in the thing. And I want to know about No/AIDS Task Force, which is something that you're also here. You're a musician, but you're also here for that. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I spend a great deal of my time and energy as a social worker in this city. Well done, by the way. Yeah, it's true. It's something I'm very passionate about. I don't know if anyone who lives here in the city, you two folks, you three folks, know anything about No AIDS Task Force. But yeah, I'm a social worker there. It's a great organization providing medical care and services to folks living with HIV and AIDS. And what's extremely cool is that within the last year and a half or so, we actually became what's called a federally qualified healthcare center. So that means that we can kind of take the model of community-based, comprehensive medical care for folks who don't have access to it, who just show up in the emergency room with the sniffles, that have then sort of turned into some kind of nasty infection that lands them in the emergency room. To kind of take that model of preventative care and make it available, to anyone who doesn't have access to that kind of care. So we're kind of expanding our mission, kind of coming from what the HIV world has been, treating the total person, kind of doing that for the rest of the city. By and large, our city, which is probably not surprising, New Orleans has very poor health outcomes. Nationally, the South is kind of not ranking too high in that way. So the city said they wanted more access to healthcare, and so we went ahead and went after the money to do it, and so here we are.
So this is for people who have nothing to do with HIV. They've got other problems.
Yeah, kind of taking that, and we still have that emphasis on treating folks with HIV and being there for them, but kind of taking that model and moving it to the general population. So we do both. So we're
What
still
is the
specialized.
model is a holistic care?
Yeah, it's this thing called the health home model. So it's this
Health
idea,
home.
health home. Yeah, it's this idea that you don't just show up at the doctor and get your bottle of medicine and go home, and just get kind of the one thing treated. But there are folks there that can also treat kind of some of those psychosocial issues. Also sensitive to things around the fact that maybe people don't show up to the doctor because they physically can't get there. They literally can't get there. So helping people with transportation, kind of acknowledging that it actually takes way more to treat somebody than just a doctor to write prescriptions. So paying attention to housing and transportation and behavioral health.
Are there holistic or alternative medicine treatments available, or just you just get to see a doctor?
So we're kind of starting with the primary care aspect, kind of traditional primary medical care. But as we have the opportunity to kind of, host like an acupuncturist or to kind of to do some kind of more allopathic things along those lines, we're definitely open to that. But it's not one of the core services that we provide.
First up is just pick up your prescriptions, helping people do that, right? Because that's crazy.
Is it free?
So we don't turn anyone away. It's not exactly.
So I can go to the doctor for free.
You can.
Anybody
If
can
you're
go.
unable to pay, you
There's
do not
no
have
mean.
to pay.
Is there a means test? Do I have to have a tax return or something? I can just walk in and say I don't want
What's
to
the
pay.
difference between
You
unable
can,
and
you can-
unwilling?
There really is no difference. Yeah, we don't shake
Right.
people down. We ask folks if they can pay their sliding fee, and if they say no, I'm not able to pay it.
Fair
We're not
enough.
going to turn anyone away.
Ultimately,
So
the
it's
measure.
about access.
Ultimately, the measure between unable and unwilling is, and you guys do a fabulous work, by the way. I've been following what you've done for quite a long time now, and it's really excellent. But ultimately, the difference is the more money you have, to your point of money, power, and fame, the better treatment you get. Right? And a lot of that has nothing to do with reactive, but proactive, as in you are putting yourself in a position where you're less likely to get sick because you're going to the doctor and doing all the rest of those things, versus, oh my God, I've got hepatitis, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah, and we really have kind of come full circle. You'd mentioned Obamacare in the first maybe 5 minutes of us being recording this podcast, and really it's a result of the funds that have kind of been put into the Affordable Care Act that have made this possible. The community health center movement.
Really?
Yes, yeah,
So-
to bring medical care into people's communities.
So there's more money in medical care now.
Yes. In the community health centers, that's a big chunk of the money out of the Affordable Care Act was, yes, to fund more community health centers.
So there's actually more cash going to people like you to fund clinics.
More access points, exactly, right.
That's
For
really
More
interesting.
people
I didn't
paying
know
their insurance.
that.
Because that's a big difference for me. Coming to New Zealand, obviously I love a lot about America. It's just weird because we go to the doctor, you know, and it's paid for, and you get something wrong, you break your arm, someone else pays for it, and you get some nice insurance. It's just a very strange and frightening situation.
It is.
To come over to America and
The
say,
other
"Oh,
thing
God, you
about
could
New
break your
Zealand
leg
is
and
that
that's
a
it
lot of
for
people
you
don't know
for
about
next
New Zealand
month."
is if you do break your leg, for example, and you're on the street or something, you break your leg in here, you can't sue anybody.
That's the one thing we've given away, and that's the one
They've
thing.
stopped it. You can do that now.
Oh,
You
see, I didn't realize the deal we made with the devil when we weren't allowed to sue people for doing stuff to us. Walking across the road in New York, no one wants to run you over. Whereas in New Zealand,
They put their
there's
foot
no,
down.
there is no.
As a New Yorker,
downside.
I can tell you the reason that they don't want to run you over is because they then have to stop.
Right.
Has nothing to do with your well-being.
See, we've
or their
invented
ability
the
to
hit
sue.
and run. Have you guys not done that yet?
But in New Zealand, there's no
Murder in
personal. You
traffic.
can't. There's no personal injury lawsuits
No,
at
that's
all.
it.
You can't sue anybody.
There's a very funny. I was doing a factory job once, and there's a very funny chart. We have this thing called the Accident Compensation Corporation, basically a government insurance situation, and they have a picture of the body with how much you get if various bits, like if your thumb gets chopped off, it's about 15 grand. But if your little finger, if you lose your little
It's
finger,
not as much.
That's
Nope.
only about two and a half.
a couple $100.
So yeah, you can get very strategic about what bits of your body you mince.
So Lucy, we don't. I mean, the general public, you don't get to hear much about HIV anymore.
No,
It seems to have dropped off.
I mean, it's hard for
People
me to say that being in the
Well, you
being in the
wouldn't know.
HIV arena.
I get
It's
the
always
feeling.
interesting to hear that.
I get the
yeah.
feeling as someone who never watches the news or pays any attention to anything, you just get it all secondhand on social media, but you don't sort of see much about it.
You
You
don't.
get the feeling that people who get HIV now, they're not going to die.
They're
They're going to be
fine.
okay. Someone like you is going to look after them, and
Yeah.
we don't sort of know much about it. What is going on?
Yeah, I think the last time something really big hit the news too was the little baby that was supposedly cured. I
Yeah.
think that kind of stuff talks around cure. I think that kind of draws a lot of attention. Right now, there's a lot of emphasis on actually taking HIV medications for someone who's not HIV positive as a method of prevention, so that they don't become positive. It's actually it's this whole thing,
There's a-
pre-exposure
As a
prophylaxis is what
prophylactic.
it's
Does it
called.
work?
There
right?
is like a
it's
vaccine.
very effective.
It is.
It's not a vaccine. The pre-exposure prophylaxis is actually taking HIV medicines from an HIV negative person to actually not become HIV positive, to have
Malaria.
risky sex
What?
or
Malaria works the same way. The stuff you take to prevent it is the same. The
Same-
malaria works the same way, right? The
same
stuff you
thing
take
to
to
treat
prevent
it.
it is the same stuff you
Sure.
use to treat it.
Yeah. So it's
But
as you
that's
can
the
imagine, it's
definition
kind
of vaccination, isn't it? It's a different thing here.
Yeah, I don't
Or is
know
it?
that we would
No, vaccination is
liken
a
it
shot,
to
you
a
take it once.
vaccination, right? Yeah.
Okay, so this is taking medication that would be normally used to fight
yes.
whatever the heck HIV. It's a virus,
It is a virus.
and it's
yeah.
a preventive as well.
It is, yeah.
Wasn't
it
that
actually
some
is.
sort of a breakthrough? Surely.
Big time, yeah, big time, and it's super controversial as well, and it's expensive. So it's
So you're not
it's
going to go
convincing-
buy it at CVS.
Probably not.
Walgreens
Yeah,
and
probably
just-
the $1,000 a month. You're not going to do that. Yeah. So try convincing insurance companies that this actually is in the best interest of our public health. And
Well, who is getting HIV now?
I mean, I think that in terms of the demographic population, kind of most infected, still kind of your men who have sex with men are still kind of ranking in the numbers as being kind of the highest numbers affected. In the South, African American women, climbing population, disproportionately affected. So,
What is the common thread between African American women and men who have sex with other men?
unprotected sex?
That's it.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not it's not intravenous drug infection, anything like that. I mean, I think there are definitely kind of cultural differences that kind of would stand out between the two populations, but at the end of the day, it's unprotected sex. Absolutely.
That's a slippery answer. I'm not that you gave, but one required, because you could step on an awful lot of toes trying to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely for sure, and all we can do is kind of lean on our epidemiology and our folks that study this sort of thing to try to just make sure that the messages are spread far and wide, because the fact is there's really no quote at-risk population. Everyone is at risk. Potentially anyone who's engaging in these behaviors
But
is
most
at
people
risk.
who are spreading AIDS to each other is men who have sex with other men and African American women.
In
Well,
the South.
And,
the-
and they're
in the
having
South.
The women
This is
being
in
the
the
ones
South?
who actually get infected. Yeah, I think it's.
so they're having sex with infected men. Is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then are they giving it to other people? Does it go every direction?
You know, I don't know that the epi data kind of follows the chains that far. You know, in terms of kind of.
What, after like 25 or 30 years? We don't know.
I don't know that it's kind of one of those things that people necessarily focus on study-wise. You know, I think it's kind of, you know, we focus on the populations that become infected, I think, and then kind of in terms of the cultural outcomes of that or kind of what circles those folks run in. I think the difference culturally that I was referring to is most of the women that become infected, they're in what they think are monogamous relationships. So it's a little bit different than maybe culture of the men who have sex with men. It's a little bit different, you know. So I think it just depends on your population. You study the population, you kind of find out what those kind of hotspots are, and you focus on those.
Hang on a second. Are you totally serious that women who think they're in monogamous relationships with guys are finding out they don't have herpes or they're getting HIV now? I've never heard that. Is that what you're saying?
Some, yes. That's one.
That's a
kind of
decent sized
one-
number of
yes. mhm.
women.
Yep.
Holy
Yep.
shit. And who are these guys cheating with? Other guys?
I suppose one could speculate. Sure.
Haven't
What?
you listened to contemporary music over the last 5 years?
I haven't
They'll
had a
tell
minute.
you.
Who? What is it? Who are you
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
about?
at the end of the day, if people
A
are
lot
such
of
Taylor
yeah.
Swift?
Paul Taylor Swift mentions
She
a lot of that
mentions
kind
it?
of cheating.
She does.
Yep, in her music.
She doesn't mention
yeah,
HIV.
It's
does
sexual
she?
activity, you
Well,
know. I mean,
she
it's-
doesn't know. That's the thing. She just
Shake
thinks
it
it's
off.
fun to cheat. Shake it off.
That's
What's
what
she
she's
shaking
talking
off?
about, maybe.
I thought that she was shaken off. Wasn't she a shaky?
You got to be
Not just a
careful next
shake
time
or?
you have sex with Taylor Swift.
I've always
That's what
said
I'm
that.
saying.
That's what you could do next if this Hillary Clinton thing works out. You could do
Rubber
the
it up.
Taylor Swift.
Well, as we find out with the
On the
Hillary
con-
Clinton thing, he has saved himself for her to avoid this particular situation.
This guy in your play has saved himself for Hillary.
Richard Miros, BA, 30 years of age.
So he's holding out for Hillary.
Yeah.
So he's not having sex with anybody else.
She doesn't want to give President Bill an unwelcome present.
I see what you're saying. So he has to stay clean. He can't risk having
That is
sex
why
with somebody
he's the only
else.
person in the world who qualifies.
Because he's still a virgin?
Well, among other things, he also has good pillow talk. Because he's got many degrees.
Have you got any way of getting in touch? I guess these people who, run the campaign, they must hear about stuff like you now, right? Now that you're in New York Magazine and so on.
Oh, well, I wonder. I do wonder.
I'm sure there's, everyone.
I
And
don't
now,
think she's getting a briefing paper on me, put it that way.
I don't know.
I just feel, even if she did hear about it, I think she could front foot this one and it would be of nothing but benefit to her.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got to be.
Yeah,
It's huge.
It's the perception of which.
She doesn't need to keep
I
quiet
mean,
about this.
Why does it have to actually exist? What if you just said it existed? Would that be the same?
Exactamundo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be denying it.
It would be the divine
I
proportion.
think you could probably pitch that to Fox News right now and be on the air tomorrow. They don't fact check, and they can't think anything they would rather have than Hillary Clinton stooping
That would be my
Kiwi.
way onto the Daily Show. That's a great idea. Go through Fox.
I don't think you want to sit down with Jon Stewart on this one.
No,
Well,
no,
he's
he'll
gone.
just play my
He's not gone for another
tapes.
couple
What about the new guy?
Oh, I don't know about
Who
the
is
new
the
guy.
new guy?
South Africa.
Isn't he a
What's his
racist
name?
misogynist
Already?
from South Africa? The moment I heard South African, I was
No,
worried.
he's
You're
the opposite.
worried.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
No.
Yeah.
He's the opposite.
That's a kind
They
of a
have been
racist
through
statement
his,
right there.
No, they have been through his Twitter. A few
Oh.
years ago, he might have said something that was a bit stupid on Twitter,
Oh, he might
and
have-
he's in trouble.
Anything you say on on Twitter
On
is by
Stupor.
definition stupid.
Stupor is a good name
Stupor is
for it.
infinitely better than Twitter because anything that has ever come out on Twitter
like
has been
it.
nothing but nonsense.
I want to make an app called
Unless you're in the
Stupor.
Middle East, and then you can crash the world.
Okay, listen, we've got to get out of here, and it's a damn shame because we didn't even get onto the elephants, Alex, which is actually the reason I think we invited
Elephants
you
and
on the show.
rhinos.
Yeah, Alex is the host of a TV documentary called what's it called? Drawing the Line,
True.
which is about saving the elephants.
Well, look, you don't need to talk about
In
it
Kenya.
now. But if you're
We can't because we have to go.
if you're
So
in New Orleans during Jazz Fest, come down to Frenchman Street every night. You can see a screening of it and
right.
painting activities and all sorts of things, and come out and have one community do good for another.
We're on Frenchman Street.
The art market.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
On the corner, and in fact, we're doing a
Yeah.
new pop-up on the corner of Washington, right across from Washington Park. So on the corner of Frenchman and Royal.
what's it going to be? There's like a movie theater or something?
No. All outdoors, all open to everybody.
So I can come and see this documentary called
Please,
Drawing
please,
the
please,
Line.
please.
How long is it?
Oh, it's short, 30 minutes.
Okay. And you
And
shot
then
it
there's-
in
then
Kenya
there's-
on location.
We did. We shot it in Kenya on location because that's in particular where the elephants are getting
That's where the
slaughtered.
elephants are. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I saw a little trailer for it. It looks fascinating.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
You've actually paid for building a shelter there that's intercepting people, poachers, and stopping them killing elephants.
That's correct. We built an outpost at the Elephant Gap in northern Kenya to monitor the poaching there. That's right.
I got to see this. You reason with the poachers?
No, we shoot the poachers. No, that's incorrect. Let me take that back.
You can go over there with
You
your
poach the
handgun.
poachers?
Arthur. Now,
I'm good from 3 feet, from point blank. I'm
There
good.
is a hot war going on right now between poachers and anti-poachers all over Africa that has to do with international crime and terrorism. Al-Shabaab, the Janjaweed, etc., are paying for their mostly Islamic militarist rebellions through, in many cases, illegal elephant tusk and rhino horn. So as a result, it's now become a national security risk to the United States, for example.
That is
you're talking
bullshit.
about
We need to
billions
stop
and
that.
billions of dollars. So no, we're not talking about going and trying to reason with a poacher, but rather shut off the source and then go after the demand.
Boom.
wow. Now, who knew that? Elephant tusks are paying for terrorists.
Yeah, Al-Shabaab last week killed 150 Kenyans, and a lot of that was paid for by illegal ivory.
Holy crap. Okay, so if you listen to this and you want to go find out more about that, the movie is called, the TV show is called Drawing the Line, and we can find out something about it at least on, I Googled it and found a trailer for it.
Yeah. If you go
is
to
cool.
if you go to either alexbeardstudio.com or wateringholefoundation.org, you will see a trailer and find out all about the things that we're doing here in New Orleans to help support the effort in East Africa.
Okay, and if you go to Kelcy Mae Band or
It's
Kelcy
just
Mae Music,
KelseyMae.com.
KelseyMae.com, and it's very difficult to spell that because both those names are spelled badly.
KELCYMAE.com. Yeah, we've got a gig at the Ninth Border Fest on Saturday night coming up here during our French Quarter Fest, and then Kelcy will also be performing with both Alexandra Scott on Saturday at French Quarter Fest and Jason Ryan on
Okay.
Sunday at French
All
Quarter
right,
Fest.
and if you listen to
Yeah.
this in 2016 or something, say, I assume the Kelcy Mae Band will still be in existence, and
Absolutely.
you'll be playing in it.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you also
yeah,
known
I
as
plan
Puddin?
to. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Actually, Kelcy
my
was
goodness.
excited about this happening. I can't believe it. It's the 11th hour.
We I finally figured that out.
This is
So
yeah.
you're Kelsey's partner.
Yeah, Puddin in the flesh right here.
Puddin.
It's true.
Remember that, Andrew?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
y'all had fun with it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't.
You don't remember that show when Kelcy was our guest on our show and she was talking about her girlfriend's name is Puddin?
Puddin, yeah, that's with an apostrophe.
And we kept. Oh, you weren't there, Andrew. You were out that day.
Saved.
The name of that
Right.
show on our website, if you're looking for it, is called Puddin Hofmeister.
Oh, that's right.
You got to. Your
I heard that
name
you were
got to
pretty
be in the top.
fixated on the name Puddin.
I love it.
Yeah,
Puddin.
that's what
your
Kelcy
that's
said.
your nickname.
Yeah, it is.
That's your affectionate nickname.
Yeah,
But
it
you're
is.
not chubby or pudding-like at all.
No, it's all about liking to eat pudding.
You love
yeah,
pudding.
I come
Ah,
I
who
come from a
doesn't?
family of grazers. We eat anything in sight.
What flavor pudding?
So, it doesn't matter.
Tapioca?
Yeah.
No. What's it? Pistachio.
That's a
the
pretty good one. Yeah, with a
Rice
little
pudding.
little crunch to
That's
it.
great.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Who doesn't like pudding?
I-
That's how you got the name. What sort of a pudding are you going to have tonight, do you think?
I've been off pudding for a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it's just it's
Is
like
that
an,
an intentional pun?
it's in cycles. No, it's not. It's not. No, I'm not off pudding. not that I would say though. But no, yeah, it's just kind of a thing. It comes in cycles, like eating cereal. You know, I don't do it every day, but
Well,
tis
cereal
the
is not
season for
much of a
cereal.
name, but pudding is
It's-
cute.
see-
But pudding has also got an apostrophe at the end. There's no
It does.
G, right?
It'd be
So you couldn't leave the L off cereal.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
don't.
It'd be cereal.
That'd be weird.
That'd be
yeah.
stupid. But
yeah,
pudding
that'd
is
be
cute. Well, Puddin,
Well,
it's
thank
so
you.
nice to meet you.
It's
We
very
really
nice to
didn't
meet
get
you.
to talk much to you at all. We didn't get to talk to Alex much about the elephants. Arthur, we really got to find out some good stuff about you, but only scratched the surface. Wonder if there'd be ever a chance to have us all back together in the same room.
I like that.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Arthur, what's your trajectory?
My
from
trajectory.
here?
Well, look, just the fact is, Hillary Clinton's young lover is Google optimized to me, which is
Hillary,
quite good.
So if we search for Hillary
Clinton's young lover. I've got a show on at La Mama in New York on the 20th of April. That's a Monday,
2015.
2015.
Okay.
I would also like Grant to take this opportunity to give you a teaspoon with my face on it.
Oh,
That is
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Thank you very
No, that
much.
is-
It's a
that's
commemorative
our
teaspoon with your
merchandise.
face. I love this.
And you cannot put that in the dishwasher, otherwise my face will melt off.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you can use it for your absinthe, your stirring,
Your pudding.
teaspoon.
You could eat your pudding with that.
Hey.
pudding.
Pistachio.
Perfect.
That is
All of those
a particular former English Empire deal, right? The Victorian
Yeah.
spoon with the picture on
Really
the end.
beautiful.
The very
Oh, nice.
The
Christmas
commemorative
vacation.
teaspoon is,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
totally,
a little bit
totally.
rebellious to come and do this in America.
Where
but
do you
there
get
go.
that manufactured? That is beautiful.
Isn't it
They
gorgeous?
don't cost a lot, I'll tell you that much, but they
I
make a big
merch.
impact.
Merch,
And merch.
Andrew.
Okay, Arthur Meek, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck. We'll follow your future here with interest, and if you get to Park Hillary, it's going to be a great day for all of us. We can say we heard about it here first. And welcome to New Orleans. You've now been here over an hour. Thank you so much for coming, especially to our show. Lucy Cordts, thanks for being here.
Thank
Alex
you.
Beard, thank you as well. That's our whole show for today. That is Happy Hour. Our show is produced by Graham DePonte. Our associate producer and technical director is Chris Kehoe. Christian Unruh is our music director, and it's his birthday today. So happy birthday, Christian.
Happy birthday.
Very nice. Our theme music was written by and is currently being played by Mitch Foreman. The fabulous audio quality of the show is brought to us in part by PreSonus Audio Electronics. And if you'd like to be on our show, you can sit around a table for about an hour and have a couple of drinks. Our address is on our website, where you can also find many more hours of happy hours to listen to, along with some other shows we make here. Out to Lunch with Peter Raschuti, live from Commander's Palace. Mindset with psychiatrist Dr. Nick Pajic. True to the Game with the fabulous Chris True. Midnight Menu +1 with Margot Moss and the Man Who Ate New Orleans. Ray Canata, Louisiana Eats with Poppy Tooker. Milo's Music Parlor with Kim Vu, and the revolutionary new way to buy a house in New Orleans, Unlisted NOLA. You can keep up with all of that on Facebook, Twitter, and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well. On all of it, we're called It's New Orleans. You can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Facebook and Google Plus pages. These photos are taken today by Alison Moon. I don't know where she is. She's over there somewhere. If you are listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher or some other podcast app that you subscribe to us on, thank you so much for subscribing. Take just one moment to do this. Would you stop everything and rate and review us? That helps other people find us. Even if you give us a bad review, I think that would probably be worth it. Our show is recorded live today at Wayfare on Ferret Street, where they put fine dining into a sandwich and fine booze into a glass. You can check it out for yourself or come back here next week. We will be back here with another Happy Hour, which is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. For Andrew Duhon, Graham DePonte, everybody around here around the table at Wayfare and back at our office at INO, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you back here next week on Happy Hour.
Let's be honest, there are tons of ways to send money back home, and every company promises me the same things: good rates and safe transfers. That's why it can be overwhelming to choose a new way to send money. I switched to Remitly because I can track my money every step of the way, which means I know exactly when my mom will get her money. And with their extensive payment network, my mom can receive her money in a way that is more convenient and safe for her. You should check it out. Go to Remitly.com or download their app to get started. Remitly Inc. is a licensed money transmitter by the state of New York, California, Massachusetts, and other states.